The 1970s did not produce softer minds. They produced competitive survivalists. If you look at the landscape of that decade, it was a world stripped of modern buffers. There was no instant validation, no algorithm rewarding your effort with a hit of dopamine every time you did something halfway right. There was no comfort built into the system. If you wanted something, you had to endure the friction of getting it, or you simply went without. In this environment, discipline wasn't an optional lifestyle choice. It wasn't something you practiced on January 1st. It was your identity. It was how you survived a world that didn't care about your feelings. Today, we look at icons like Kobe Bryant, Elon Musk, and Mike Tyson, and we call them extremists. But to a mind built in the 70s, they aren't extremists. They are simply the logical conclusion of a world that didn't negotiate. They represent three different faces of the same brutal coin: controlled obsession, extreme work tolerance, and raw aggression channeled into structure. They didn't wait to feel motivated. They acted because stopping wasn't part of who they were. Segment 1. Kobe Bryant, the removal of choice. Let's begin with the Mamba Mentality. Kobe Bryant, born in 1978, is often cited for his legendary 4 a.m. workouts. But people miss the psychological point. The 4 a.m. workout wasn't about the basketball, it was about the removal of negotiation. Most people wake up and have a debate with themselves. Should I go to the gym? Am I tired? Did I sleep enough? For a mind built in the 70s, that debate doesn't exist. When discipline becomes your identity, the internal dialogue disappears. You don't try to work hard, you simply are the person who works. Kobe's training was a form of cognitive conditioning. He didn't just practice shots, he engaged in mental simulations so intense that by the time the game started, reality was just a replay of his mind. This is identity-based discipline. In psychology, we call this a closed-loop system. There is no external approval needed. The standard is internal. Kobe didn't need a coach to tell him to be great. He couldn't live with himself if he was anything less. He treated his mind like a high-performance machine that had no off switch for excellence. In the 70s, if you didn't perform, you were replaced. Kobe simply applied that survivalist logic to the basketball court for 20 years. Segment 2. Elon Musk, the architecture of stress. Then we move to Elon Musk, born in 1971. If Kobe is the face of controlled obsession, Musk is the face of extreme stress tolerance. Musk's work ethic, the 80, 100, sometimes 120-hour work weeks, is often criticized as unsustainable. But from a psychological perspective, Musk is a master of stress adaptation. The 70s environment was one of high stakes and low safety nets. When you grow up in that era, your perception of pressure is reshaped. Musk doesn't see stress as a signal to stop. He sees it as a baseline environment. There is a concept in neuroscience called allostatic load, the wear and tear on the body and brain caused by chronic stress. Most people have a low threshold. Musk, however, has spent decades increasing his bandwidth for pain and risk. He didn't build SpaceX and Tesla through genius alone. He built them through the sheer refusal to buckle under psychological weight that would crush most human beings. His childhood in South Africa in the 70s provided the hardening phase. When your formative years are spent navigating a world where comfort is a luxury, you develop a long-term obsession with solutions. You don't negotiate with the problem, you outwork it. Musk doesn't work 100 hours because he's motivated. He does it because his internal standard dictates that the mission is more important than his personal comfort. It is the ultimate expression of the 70s survivalist: adapt or fail. Segment 3. Mike Tyson, channeled aggression. Finally, we look at Mike Tyson. Born in 1966 but forged in the 70s in the roughest parts of Brooklyn. Tyson represents raw aggression channeled into structure. Tyson's early career under Cus D'Amato was a psychological experiment in conditioned ferocity. Tyson had a Sorovo, raw anger. In the hands of anyone else, that anger would have destroyed him. But D'Amato gave him a cage, the cage of routine. Tyson's discipline was brutal. It was repetitive. It was painful, but it had a purpose: to weaponize fear. Most people try to avoid fear or conquer it. Tyson was taught to use it as fuel. This is stress inoculation training. By repeatedly exposing himself to the most brutal physical and mental conditions, Tyson became a heat-seeking missile directed at his opponents. The psychological lesson here is simple. Aggression without structure is chaos. Aggression with discipline is dominance. Tyson didn't negotiate with his fear, he structured it. He woke up at 4 a.m. to run because he knew his opponent was still sleeping. That edge wasn't about fitness. It was about knowing he had done the work that others were too soft to do. That is the 70s mindset. If it's hard, do it twice. The core thesis, the hardness of the 70s mind. The thread that connects Kobe, Musk, and Tyson is that they are hard in an era that is becoming increasingly soft. The 70s mindset wasn't louder, it was harder. It was harder on comfort. It was harder on excuses. It was harder on identity. Modern culture tells us to listen to our bodies and prioritize self-care. And while that has its place, it has created a generation of negotiators. We negotiate with our alarm clocks. We negotiate with our goals. We negotiate with our potential. The 70s generation didn't have that luxury. If they negotiated with discipline, they lost. They learned that the moment you negotiate with comfort, comfort wins every time. Discipline is not a feeling you wait for. It is a structure you build so that you don't have to rely on feelings. In psychology, we talk about internal standard versus external approval. These three men didn't care if the world liked them. They cared if they met their own standard. Kobe didn't care about the media. He cared about the ghost of his own potential. Musk doesn't care about the critics. He cares about the physics of the rocket. Tyson didn't care about the applause. He cared about the fear in his opponent's eyes. Final blow. You don't need to be born in the 1970s to adopt this architecture, but you do need to adopt their one non-negotiable rule: no negotiation with discipline. The next time you're tired, the next time you're stressed, the next time you want to take the easy path, remember that there is a version of you that doesn't care how you feel. There is a version of you that acts because acting is who you are. Greatness is not a gift. It is a result of a mind that has been conditioned to tolerate what others find intolerable. It is the ability to stay in the fight when the algorithm says it's time to quit. Because in the end, the world doesn't reward those who are comfortable. It rewards those who are built to last. It rewards the survivalists. It rewards the minds that refuse to negotiate. Stop asking for permission to be great. Stop waiting for the right time. The 70s are over, but the rules haven't changed. No comfort, no negotiation. The work is the only thing that's real. I'll see you in the next one.